Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have the GTeng Cheetah or the T907W. This is a Wi-Fi hexacopter and it comes as you see here, plus we have our charging, extra set of props, and a clear handled screwdriver, and a battery which is a little bit shorter than traditional batteries with these low-C connectors. This is a 500 mAh 25C as it's printed here. Let me get a regular 500 mAh battery and we'll compare those. Here are two more traditionally shaped 500 mAh batteries. This one's actually 600 as it's printed, but let me just lay this down. So this one is thicker and shorter, and that's because these don't necessarily fit into the battery bay of the Cheetah. And I'll show you that here. If you have some of these batteries and want to try them out, I think you can. Oh, that one's got Duralock on it. Let's take that away. But this is as far in as it goes. So you're probably going to have to cut some notches in your battery bay and have your battery leads outside the battery bay in order to use a 600 mAh battery or a more traditionally shaped battery. But you can do that. You know, you take wire cutters and just snip two little spots over one of those holes, you know, right here. And then you can put one side of your battery lead through there, and you do the same thing on this side, and then you can run different batteries in different shapes. And you can see that battery tray down in there. Let me get a flashlight so you might actually see it down in there. It has a hard plastic backing down in there, so you don't have any wiggle room down in there. We have a few lights here. Got one on each corner and then one on the front. The camera angle does change, but it doesn't seem to hold its position very well. You kind of just have two main positions. You've got straight ahead, and then you've got down. And the down is a pretty heavy angle, so you're going to need to be quite high to use that. And with something this size, I can't recommend you be that high. A slight breeze, and phew, it could be gone. Something that's interesting about the controller, outside of the design, which is, in my opinion, better than some of the smaller ones that I call peanuts. Like this one, I call this thing a peanut. And there's a size comparison. Doesn't look that much bigger, but it feels a lot more natural in the hands. And the sticks are fine. We have a spring-loaded throttle, and then we have buttons up here. And this is your takeoff and landing button. And then when you press them both down, according to the instructions, it says emergency stop. Now, I didn't try that because that just sounds bad. But if you're in an emergency, I suspect what it's going to do, but it doesn't say this in the instruction, is it's just going to kill power. And all the motors are going to stop and the thing will fall out of the air. Now, that's not something I want to try out and break it, but if you get in a bad situation, it could be a safety net. This folds out and shows our power button and then our power indicator. And you can put pretty good-sized phones, maybe even a small-ish tablet. I suspect the bigger phones that are 7-inch screens would probably fit in there. I didn't have any problems with any of the phones I tried. And it does have a screw that it comes in here. I took it out just because this bay stays closed just fine, and it takes two AAA batteries. The hexacopter comes all pre-assembled. No real assembly to do with this. You can see the Wi-Fi antenna is already secured in there. It's not tight, but it doesn't come out. I mean, there's enough tension on there that it just doesn't come out. So let's take a look at the camera, and I'm going to show you the delay because I think that's pretty important when you're looking at these Wi-Fi cameras. If you haven't had one before, you may think that flying FPV via Wi-Fi camera is going to be a really good experience, and you can use it and you can get adjusted to it. But for me, the response of the camera isn't quick enough in order to actually use it. So let's get this hooked up and try that out. Here's the app, and I try to show this in the video footage that we have outside, but of course with sun and glare, it just doesn't come out very well. So we'll take a look at it here inside. It has the option to start it in HD, but that does not work. I don't get any picture or anything on that. So if we tap VGA, you can see we have some here. See how it's slow to respond? And you can turn these controls off so that you can just see it, and it also gives you the ability to switch mode. When you want to fly it via FPV, you tap this button. That activates the motors, and then you press the up to take off and the down to land. and then this is your emergency stop. So if the buttons are the same as that, then it just stops the motors without any landing procedure or anything. So it's going to fall out of the sky. Then you've got our other buttons for calibration, screen orientation, video, and photo taking. And you can probably see on my screen that there's a refresh rate that's going on there, so we get some darker lines through there. And that's not necessarily typical of all of them, but it is kind of what you normally see when it comes to these cameras, because there is a delay. So now you know what to expect. It is pretty cool, and it would be a fun thing to just try out. I would do it primarily indoors, but not around other people, and not likely to use the modes 3 on this. Probably going to be using or rate 3. You're probably going to be using the first rate or the second rate to do that. So that's kind of a brief overview of the application, and this is running on Android, and the instructions don't come with a barcode to scan, so you can find the app. So you just need to search GTeng, and the developer name is actually in Chinese, so I don't know what it says, but it's the only one in there, and it seems to work just fine. Well, let's go fly it now. Let's go ahead and fly it. There, that's more normal. Okay, we got a pretty good breeze. Let's go over here. Pretty stiff right now. The breeze is kind of coming and going in gusts. Let's fly around a bit. There's funnels. Let's take a closer look at our rates. Press the left stick down. It goes from the lowest rate to the highest rate for some reason. So there's our yaw. Here's our pitch. And our roll. Let's try the next rate, which is the lowest. You can see that's real docile, real slow, but good for indoor or just starting out. Yaw rate on the lowest level. Probably good for filming too. Let's bring it back. Let's go back into the... Whoa, whoa, whoa! So this is our medium rates. Yaw still relatively slow. A little bit more pitch. A little bit more roll. And here's our auto landing feature. So that worked just fine. So we'll press it again. Is it going to take off? I have to unlock. Got down into the corners to unlock. Okay, so let's try the camera. I am not getting any view from the camera, so I'm going to have to try this again. Let's bring it back in. I'll get possibly my phone has dropped the Wi-Fi connection from the quad, so let's bring it in and trimming it out. I can't trim it enough to fight this wind. That doesn't really matter anyway, so let's land it. Comes in nice and gently. There we go. Alright, let me see. Let me work on my phone here a bit. I'm just not getting any picture from the camera on here. Let's fly. Let's have some fun at least. So here's our highest rates. I'll try to keep it in close. Around behind me. You can see when you keep it full pitch that it drops altitude. So you do have to manage throttle, even though it's got a spring-loaded throttle and altitude hold feature. You do have to manage throttle a little bit. You can see the wind push it down right there. And the yaw is actually more responsive in forward flight than it is when it's just hovering. It's kind of interesting. Little back flip. Bring it over here closer. Whoa! Boy, it really comes back hard when you do those flips. Does a little better on rolls. It seems like if it's got it too low, it won't flip. Let me try. No, it did that time. Maybe it's just my pressing sequence. When you yaw around, the props make kind of an interesting noise. It's really biting through the air. You can't really do forward flight flips and rolls because the stick press. You have to press it in order to get it into the roll mechanism. I'm going to try a few more times here. No, didn't get it done. No, you just can't go quick enough. It does auto land when the battery gets low. So when you find that you can't keep the altitude you want to and it starts to come down, I don't suggest you continue to try to fly it around. Let it kind of balance itself out, level out, and it will land. See, it's doing it right now. Okay, that's flight one. We're gonna have to try this some more to see if I can get that camera to work. I don't know if you can see that screen or not, but we'll show it inside a little bit where you get a better view. But that gives you an idea of the, if you can see it, the delay. So flying it with the controls that they have on screen, that's going to be fairly challenging because of the delay. But you can experiment with that and try. This middle button down here turns your Wi-Fi off, so you don't want to use that. Okay, so let's bind it up and unlock it. So you can fly it with these controls as I'm doing now, and it works relatively well. It's just if you're flying it with the camera view, that's going to be hard. There's no tactile feedback, and I think that's something for me that's awful challenging. Works relatively well. It's real still right now, and that's helping us a great deal with using these controls here. Now I've lost my orientation. Here we go. Whoa, okay. Well, that didn't work so great. So let's not do that anymore. Little breeze came up and it gave me all sorts of fits. So in order to use the controls, you've got to turn off the Wi-Fi. And now we can fly it with just the controller. So now we're in the highest rates. Bring it over here in the sun. See how it swung around there? The yaw is actually much more effective in forward flight than it is indicates by its pitch speed, or its yaw speed. when you get to the long tone, you can do the flip. The short tone, no flip. Stick's got to be centered. But it's pretty agile on the highest rates, you know, pretty fun little flyer. Don't need a lot of space. Battery's getting low a little bit. Got to give it a little throttle. See how it sinks down there as we continue to give it full pitch. It just doesn't quite have enough thrust to hold its position in height on full pitch forward. And it gains it when you make a turn. Little funnel. Wind's coming up on us a bit there. Whoa. You hear those props biting through the air. Let's land it. Nope, tipped over there. I want to get some footage, so we go into VGA, and I'm going to hit record, and we get a little timer on the screen. Let's see if we can, oh, where's our, let's take off. We're going to do it. Not wanting to take off. So we'll do it with the regular controls. We'll get a little range on our FPV here. Well, it's pretty decent, you know. I've had the other Wi-Fi cameras. Oh, we just lost it there for some reason. It's frozen. Let's see how, oh, now we got it back. It's frozen again. And because it's not onboard recording, that means that your recording is going to be frozen in time too. Let's go up a little higher. I wish I had some shade that maybe if I stand over here underneath this tree. Oh! Okay. That must have been all she had. Reconnecting, it says. Back here at the desk for just brief final thoughts. I think there's a few things that they did well that I need to point out to make sure that they are highlighted. This is one of the better camera or phone holders that I've seen. It may be noisy as sin, but it's solid and it's firm, and I'm not concerned about my phone coming out of here. I'm also think that the mechanism they've used to secure the angle is a lot better than others that I've used. I do think that, for me, this is just an opinion, but I think using a down press button for any sort of acrobatics is probably a design flaw in my opinion. I would rather see our buttons be used for things like rolls and flips, because that way when you're in forward flight, you can do a forward flight, flip, or roll. which is more fun, I think, when it comes to line of sight flying. But when it's down here, the stick has to be centered in order to get that double tone before you can then give it a direction. And with the self-leveling built in, it pretty much comes to a stop before you can activate the roll. So that kind of decreases your options for flight. I also think that they could probably use bigger props on this. Now, that's going to decrease our efficiency of our battery use, but as you can see here, we've got some space. And if we can get a couple extra mil on each one of those props, we'll end up getting more thrust, and that would increase our enjoyment possibly. I think the range on it with Wi-Fi is about what you expect. It's about what I've seen in others. It's about 20 to 30 meters. You're not going to get much more than that. The control range, though, is... I actually didn't do a control range test, because if you're doing line of sight, this thing isn't very big. So if you get more than, say, 40 meters out, it's going to be really hard to tell which direction you're going, or if you can even see it, depending upon your vision. But the control didn't drop out, so that's a good thing. I've seen other copters where I get across the cul-de-sac and it just falls out of the sky because it lost control. I also think they need to include a power switch. When you have a battery bay like this and you have to tuck the battery inside and then close the battery bay, I think we need to have a switch somewhere, especially when we're doing anything with Wi-Fi, because that immediately starts consuming battery. And I also wish that they would insert an SD card. I think they need to do that. Here at the end, I'll include some photos and videos so you can take a look at the footage itself. I generally using those small squares within the video to show you that it doesn't give you a very good idea of what it's really like, because it's only partial resolution and it's really small on the screen. So I'm going to do that here at the end of the video, and we'll show 15-20 seconds of video footage and a couple of photos. Okay, that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the section down below, and thanks for watching.